In a text-to-image workflow, the AI starts from nothing, pure noise, and generates an image based on your prompt. In an image-to-image workflow, like the name says, the AI starts from an existing image you provide and transforms it based on your prompt and settings, right? This lets you take a photograph, a sketch, or any image for that matter, and use it as a foundation for the AI to build on. In this chapter, we'll take a text-to-image workflow and modify it step by step to accept an input image instead. Along the way, I'll explain the theory behind what we're doing and one important technical limitation that you need to know about. Now, a quick note before we start. Depending on the diffusion model you're using, the exact setup can vary slightly, but the theory is essentially the same. Now, the process I'm about to show you works with the Z-image turbo model and is a solid foundation for understanding how image-to-image works in general. In a text-to-image workflow, the K-sampler receives an empty latent image. And this is a node that has a blank canvas as a starting point. The AI refines that blank canvas, sends noise into it, and a finished image is created from scratch. In an image-to-image workflow, we want to replace that blank starting point with an actual image. So instead of beginning from nothing, the AI will begin from the content of the image we provide and modify it according to our prompt. So the change is focused on one area. We're swapping out the empty latent image node and replacing it with a small set of nodes that load our image and prepare it for the AI. So we're going to use the same text-to-image workflow we used in the previous chapter. So select the empty latent image node on your canvas and delete it. The K-sampler's latent image input is now empty and waiting for a new connection. Double-click on the canvas and search for Load Image. Place it on your canvas, and this node lets you bring an image into your workflow. You can drag and drop an image file directly onto it, or click here to browse on your computer and select an image. Go ahead and load the image you want to use as your starting point. Now, if you try to connect the load image node directly to the K-sampler's latent image input, you'll find that it doesn't work. The load image output is blue, but the K-sampler expects pink. So the blue, again, is the digital space or the RGB space, and the pink is the latent space. These do not match. You have to encode and decode between them. These are two different types of data. This is where the VAE Encode node comes in. Double-click the canvas and search for it. In your text-to-image workflow, you already have a VAE Decode node at the end of the chain. That one converts the AI's output from latent space back into our visible image. Now, the VAE Encode node does the exact opposite. It takes a visible image and converts it into latent space so the AI can work with it. Think of these two nodes as a pair of portals. VAE Encode takes data from our digital space, the human world of visible images, and translate it into the latent space, the AI's internal workspace. The VAE Decode takes data from the AI's workspace, the latent space, and translates it back into a visible image for you, the digital space or the RGB space. Place the VAE Encode node between the load image node and the K-sampler. Connect the image output from load image into the VAE Encode node's image input, then connect the VAE Encode node's latent output to the K-sampler's latent image input. The VAE Encode node also needs a VAE model to do its work. Now, you already have a load VAE node in your workflow for the decode step. So all you need to do is connect that same VAE model output to the VAE Encode node's input as well. One load VAE node can feed both the encode and decode nodes, or as many as you might want. Now, before we run anything, there's an important technical limitation to address. Now, these AI diffusion models are designed to work at specific resolutions. They have a sweet spot, so to speak, a range of image sizes they were trained on, and they perform best when the input stays within that range. For the Z-image turbo model, that sweet spot is around 1024 by 1024 pixels. If you feed in an image that's significantly larger, say a 4K photograph at 3840 by 2160, the workflow will, well, either fail or produce weird results. The reason it would fail is, well, your machine would not be able to handle that high of resolution. But the model also wasn't designed to process that much data at once. So if it does work, that's why you can get distorted images and weird proportions. Now, to solve this, we'll add a resize image node. There are a bunch of them, and they're very similar. It doesn't really matter which one you use. I have a few preferences, but test a few and see what you like. Double-click the canvas, search for resize image, and place it between the load image node and the VAE encode node. Now, this node automatically scales down any image to a size you specify, or scales up, but that's not really what we're looking for. If we scale up with this node, we're going to lose quality. With that said, if we have high enough denoising, we can scale up with this type of node as well. We're going to set the value to 1024 here, and no matter what size image you have or you drop into the workflow, it will scale down to fit this size. Now, make sure that you have an image resizer that works with a set aspect ratio, so it doesn't change your image by dragging it out in one of the sides. Connect the load image output to the resize node's input, and then connect the resize node's output to the VAE encode node. Your image now flows through a resizing step before entering the AI's latent space. Everything is now connected, or should be. You can now click Run, and when it finishes, look at the result, and you might be surprised. If your image looks completely different from the one you fed in, that's expected. By default, the denoise value in the K-sampler is set to 1, which tells the AI to change the image as much as it wants. At 1, the AI essentially ignores your input image and generates something entirely new, as if it were starting from a blank canvas. To actually see your input image influence the result, you need to lower the denoise value. Lower values like 0.2 to 0.4, the AI makes subtle changes. The structure, colors, and composition of your original image are mostly preserved with gentle details applied. If you increase the value to, for example, 0.5 to 0.7, the AI will start changing more of your image, and it will retain some of the colors you have in there, but will take more creative liberties. You'll see noticeable changes in style, detail, and elements, while the overall composition mostly remains recognizable. Now, if you move into the higher values, 0.8 to 1, the AI will make dramatic changes, and the original image becomes a loose suggestion at best. And the result may look very different from what you start with. Start by experimenting with different values to see how much control you want to keep over the original image versus how much freedom you give the AI. Just remember, in a simple image-to-image workflow like this, the AI doesn't see your image. It doesn't see that it's a character or a kitten or a certain type of composition. It just sees pixels. It sees the colors. So if you have blocks of colors and you have a lower denoising, well, it's going to try to retain that. Now, you have to use the prompt to control what you want to see in the image. Now, if you're looking to create something where you retain poses or style, well, then we have to build the workflow out and use control nets or other similar features. Think of this as a image to image where you do color to color and you control through the prompt and denoising.